Hello everyone, welcome back to Battleverse. Today we dive into a breaking and significant shift in the Ukraine war. The United States has officially declared that it will not send ground troops to Ukraine. Instead, Washington has hinted at the possibility of providing air support, while also pressing European nations to take greater responsibility in defending Ukraine's security. This announcement marks a turning point in how the war may unfold, and it reshapes the balance of power across Europe and beyond. In this video, we will explore the implications of this decision, the strategy behind it, the reactions from Ukraine, Russia, and Europe, and what it could mean for the future of the conflict. For nearly 3 years, Ukraine has stood on the front lines against Russia's full-scale invasion. The war has devastated cities, drained economies, and reshaped global alliances. From the very beginning, the United States has been Ukraine's most important ally, delivering billions of dollars in weapons, intelligence, and humanitarian aid. But as the war drags on and global tensions rise, Washington has drawn a red line. No American boots will be marching on Ukrainian soil. That statement has been repeated again and again by both the Biden and Trump administrations. And now, with Trump back in office, the White House has doubled down on this stance. The United States will not directly commit ground forces. Instead, America is considering the skies. Air power, reconnaissance, and limited aerial intervention may be on the table. This distinction matters. Ground troops mean long-term occupation, casualties, and direct confrontation with Russian forces. Air support, on the other hand, offers flexibility. It allows the United States to strike from a distance, to enforce no-fly zones, or to intercept Russian missile and drone attacks without deploying large numbers of soldiers into the chaos of the battlefield. For Washington, this approach reduces the risk of a full-scale war with Moscow while still showing strength and commitment. But there is another layer to this strategy. The United States is making it clear, Europe must step up. For too long, Washington argues, Europe has relied on American firepower and American taxpayers to guarantee its security. NATO exists as a collective defense alliance, yet when the war in Ukraine began, much of the heavy lifting came from the United States. Now, with this announcement, Washington is signaling a shift. Europe must bear more of the burden, provide more aid, deliver more weapons, and prepare to take the lead in its own defense. This move has sparked immediate debate. In Kiev, Ukrainian leaders expressed both relief and concern. Relief because the possibility of American air support could tilt the battlefield in Ukraine's favor, especially against Russia's relentless drone and missile campaigns. Concern because without American ground troops, Ukraine still faces enormous pressure to hold the front lines with its own exhausted army. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has long asked for more concrete guarantees of support, fearing that Western promises may fade as the war continues. In Moscow, the reaction was predictable. Russian officials blasted the U.S. announcement as provocative and dangerous, warning that any American aircraft entering Ukrainian skies could be considered legitimate targets. Russia has repeatedly drawn its own red lines, threatening retaliation against NATO if it crosses certain thresholds. The idea of American air support brings those red lines into question. Would Russia dare to shoot down U.S. jets? Would such a clash trigger Article 5 of NATO, leading to a broader war? These questions now hang in the balance. In Europe, the mood is divided. Some nations, especially those closest to Russia's borders, like Poland and the Baltic states, welcomed Washington's decision. They see American air support as a powerful deterrent and are eager to step up their own defense spending. Others, particularly in Western Europe, are more cautious. Countries like Germany and France worry that expanding the conflict in the skies could escalate tensions and drag Europe into a wider war. But even they recognize the underlying message: Europe cannot hide behind America forever. To understand why Washington is taking this path, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. For decades, U.S. foreign policy has been guided by the principle of avoiding direct confrontation with another nuclear superpower. During the Cold War, American and Soviet forces often faced each other indirectly, fighting proxy wars in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, but never engaging in a direct large-scale ground war. That unwritten rule continues today. Sending ground troops into Ukraine would risk a direct clash with Russian soldiers and potentially nuclear escalation. That is a gamble no American president is willing to take. Air support, however, provides options. Imagine U.S. aircraft patrolling the skies, intercepting incoming Russian cruise missiles, destroying Iranian-made drones before they hit Ukrainian cities, or even providing close air support during major Ukrainian offensives. Such involvement would drastically reduce Ukraine's vulnerability to air strikes, boost morale, and give Kiev more breathing room. At the same time, it allows Washington to maintain some distance, avoiding the political and human cost of a ground war. But air support is not simple. The logistics of operating in Ukraine's airspace are complicated. Russia possesses one of the most advanced air defense networks in the world. Its S-400 and S-500 missile systems are capable of targeting aircraft from hundreds of kilometers away. Any American planes entering the war zone would face significant risks. To neutralize these defenses, the U.S. would need to conduct extensive suppression missions, striking Russian radar and missile batteries, possibly even those stationed on Russian territory. That would mean escalation. The Kremlin could interpret it as a direct act of war, leading to unpredictable consequences. This is why Washington's message to Europe is so important. If European nations take on more responsibility, if they strengthen their militaries, provide more aid, and build a united defense posture, then America can limit its role to a supportive one rather than being the main driver. For years, American leaders have criticized NATO allies for not spending enough on defense. Former President Trump, in particular, has been vocal about this, accusing European countries of freeloading off U.S. protection. Now, in the middle of the Ukraine war, that criticism is becoming policy. America is saying, we will help, but Europe must lead. The future of the war now hinges on several key factors. First, will Europe rise to the challenge? Already, countries like Poland are massively increasing their defense budgets, purchasing tanks, fighter jets, and missile systems at record speed. The Baltic states are fortifying their borders. Even Germany, long criticized for military underinvestment, has pledged to meet NATO's spending targets. But pledges are one thing, action is another. Building a powerful defense takes time, and Ukraine cannot wait. Second, how will Russia respond? The Kremlin has shown no signs of backing down. Despite heavy losses, Moscow continues to launch waves of drone and missile attacks, targeting Ukraine's energy grid, infrastructure, and civilian centers. Russia is betting that the West will tire before Ukraine can achieve victory. If American air support becomes a reality, it could change that calculation, but it could also push Moscow into more desperate measures. The risk of escalation remains ever present. Third, what about the American public? Wars are not fought only on battlefields, they are fought in politics too. In the United States, public opinion is deeply divided. Many Americans support Ukraine's struggle for freedom, but many others are weary of endless foreign wars. The memory of Iraq and Afghanistan still looms large. By refusing to send ground troops, Washington is trying to balance these concerns. Air support may be more acceptable to voters than full-scale deployments, but even then, the cost of maintaining aircraft, drones, and munitions is high. Will the American people continue to support such involvement if the war drags on for years? And finally, what does this mean for Ukraine itself? Zelensky's government has shown resilience, determination, and bravery. Ukrainian forces have adapted, innovated, and fought with courage against overwhelming odds. But the toll has been brutal. Cities reduced to rubble, families torn apart, millions displaced. Ukraine cannot win this war alone. It needs weapons, training, money, and yes, possibly even air support from the world's most powerful military. This U.S. announcement may not be everything Ukraine hoped for, but it could still shift the balance enough to prevent collapse and keep the dream of victory alive. So where does this leave us? We stand at a crossroads. The United States has drawn its line, no ground troops. Air support is possible, but conditional. Europe must step forward or else risk being left vulnerable. Russia is watching closely, weighing its next move. Ukraine is fighting on, hoping the world does not forget. The outcome of this war will shape the future of Europe, the credibility of NATO, and the global order for decades to come. For now, one thing is certain. The war in Ukraine is entering a new phase. The battlefield may soon extend from the trenches and cities into the skies above. American jets may soon roar over Eastern Europe, intercepting Russian missiles. protecting Ukrainian skies and sending a message that the West still stands firm. But the risks are enormous. Every decision carries the weight of escalation. Every move could push us closer to a conflict no one wants to imagine. This is the high-stakes gamble unfolding before our eyes. And as always, we will be here, analyzing every twist, every shift, and every decision that shapes the course of history. Thank you for watching Battleverse. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an update on this critical conflict. Stay tuned, because the skies above Ukraine may soon decide the fate of Europe.